So hi everyone, today I'm excited because I have Jason Tugman from hangwith.me on the show. Specifically, Jason just created an app that I think you guys are going to love. It's a beautiful app for connecting with people who share the same interests and likes with what you're interested in. And Jason will go into more details about that. But one of the main reasons I had Jason on the call is because everyone has an idea that they want to build out. And we might not all be technical, and David just went through the Jason just went through the process of actually creating an app. He had an idea, put the ideas out so that the developers can help him with the app. And Jason has been so kind to come on the show to talk to us through the process of how he did it, because I'm sure you as an audience might have something that you want to build, and you need to figure out how do you take it from an idea to something that's actually done, and that's what Jason is here to do for us. So, Jason, introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Well, I think you did a pretty good job. My name is Jason Tugman. I'm the founder of hangwith.me. Not sure what else to say.
Well, before we even go into how you describe the app, just tell people what the hangwith.me does, so that people can understand, how you got to the process of the idea, and then how you turn the idea into working with the developer. Just tell us what the app does first of all.
Sure. So Hang With Me is really simple. We allow you to find people to hang out with, right? The idea started because and we'll get into this probably a little bit later, but when I was making the app, I was originally designing a dating site. And I was like, I was going to create this new dating site. And then, so at the time I had a girlfriend, and, so she wasn't too pleased about me creating a dating site. And, so she looks over my shoulder, and she's new to town. And, was a champion horse rider. And she looked over my shoulder and she's like, "Oh, can I use your app to help me find someone to, ride horses with?" And I was like, ding! And it was such a simple idea that, sometimes what do you do when you're new to town? What do you do when your social graph, your social network fails you? What do you do if none of your friends have your interest? How do you find someone to hang out with? It's such a simple idea. And, so I looked around and nobody was doing it. And I was like, and it was kind of a personal frustration for me. I'm a video gamer, but yet at the same time, I'm an entrepreneur, and at the same time, I like to go running and I go hiking. All of those are very disparate wants and needs. So how I describe myself is really dependent on what I'm looking for. Am I an entrepreneur? And if so, I'm going to describe myself like that. But that relevance, that context is lost if I want to find a running partner, So how you describe yourself is really key to finding people to hang out with. And so I created a really simple website, hangwith.me, hang with me, that just does one thing. We allow people to find other people to hang out with. It's not a dating site. It's not a social network. It's just, it's kind of that perfect mix between, Craigslist is great for selling your couch. It's not great for finding a running partner. Facebook is great for connecting with your friends, but it's not so great for finding always new friends. So Hang With Me is just a really simple way to find new people to hang out with.
So based on certain tags about what their interests are, so you might get somebody who has a bunch of different interests that's similar to yours, and you can connect with them based on those specific interests. And the more interests they have with you that are similar, then I guess the closer you can get.
Well, no, it's actually much simpler than that. It very much is the concept of kind of a Craigslist kind of thing. If I want to sell my couch, I'll go on Craigslist and say, I have a couch and it's blue, and I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. And so people within Silver Spring, Maryland will see this listing for the couch because it's relevant to them and they're searching for a couch. Same thing, if I'm looking for a running partner and I live in Silver Spring, so I'm going to make a listing looking for a running partner, and then in the description I'll be, I like to run in the mornings and I live in Silver Spring, and and then so all of that becomes relevant, and then so other people in Silver Spring or within 5 or 10 miles of me can see that listing. Now, if I'm looking for a gaming partner, right, so if I'm looking for someone to play Halo with, it doesn't necessarily matter where they are because I can play with them online. Yeah. So that listing is going to be seen by really anybody around the world. So we allow you, what we say is we allow you to be you within the context of what you're looking for. So we allow you to have multiple profiles. So again, you can describe yourself in what you're looking for. I know that I'm looking for a gaming partner, so I'm going to talk about my interest in gaming for that profile. Then I'm going to make a listing. Hey, I'm looking for a Halo partner. Hey, I'm looking, Cataclysm comes out, December 7th. I'm looking for, a Cataclysm partner, Cataclysm guild. I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. So other people can look for that on tags. So my tag would be, World of Warcraft, Cataclysm, whatever. Same thing with running partner. It's going to be Silver Spring and running, and I can search on those. And it's just a really simple way to find people within the context of what you're looking for.
Definitely. I totally get the need for hangwith.me. Yep. And what I want us to go into now is, so now you had the idea. How do you turn that idea to what it is now? And first of all, are you actually a developer? Do you have any kind of programming experience? Because I want to make people understand where you're coming from with this.
Right. So I do. I don't consider myself a programmer, but I also, at the same time, I think it's really important to not use that as an excuse to not try and learn programming. Right. So I write all the CSS, I write all the HTML, so I make the site look pretty. I don't know if design is any good, but so I do all the HTML and CSS stuff. So I do have a basic understanding of programming. I have a deep understanding. I use Ruby on Rails as a language to develop. I've read every Ruby on Rails book that there is. So even as a non-developer, you still, I strongly believe that you need to have a very strong understanding of the technology that you're using. To me, making a web application is the same thing as being a car salesman, right? You can't sell a car if you don't have a driver's license because you don't have a basic understanding of how cars work. You've never driven a car. Same thing with programming. You don't have to be good at it, but you have to have tried it. You have to have just said, okay, let me create a hello world page. Let me fail, so at least I know how difficult it is. And then once you kind of know that, you can then also learn the lingo, and you can learn how to talk to a developer because you've at least tried. So am I a developer? No. But can I program? I mean, I'm not very good, so no. But to that extent, yeah, I can program.
So let me see if I can get this correctly, because I don't want my audience to think that they need to know programming. Right. I mean, the reality of what you're saying is that you knew what you want, the kind of language you wanted the developer to use to program and develop your code for your app. What you did was spend the time to at least learn the basics so that you can at least turn that idea in a way in which you can communicate it to the developer. But it's not necessarily that you are now this guru programmer whatsoever.
No, I'm awful. It's not a joke. I'm an awful, terrible programmer. But it's more of the point of just saying, ooh, I don't understand programming. That's not an excuse, right? Especially if you want to. Again, going back to the car salesman, if I'm going to sell a car, I need to understand the car. I need to have a basic understanding of how engines work. I don't need to be a mechanic, but I need to know a carburetor or whatever, what that is. So it's just familiar. I guess what I'm saying is don't use not being a programmer as an excuse to just kind of wave your hands in the air and say, ooh, I don't understand. Because if you do that, you're going to get bad code, You need to have at least some rudimentary. I mean, we're talking like basic. Just read one programming book. Don't understand it. Don't be able to follow along with it. But read the words so that you'll then kind of know what words your programmer are going to use when they're talking to you. In that way, you can kind of have some base of reference. Yeah, in today's world, I don't think that you need to know programming. Absolutely not. With outsourcing and contractors and all that stuff. But again, I think that the more you know, the better your app is going to be.
Definitely, definitely. So now you get this idea. Let's go step by step. You get this idea. What did you do next?
The first thing I did is I opened up a sketch. Well, I just started with pen and paper and just said, okay, what is the site going to do? What is the purpose? Why am I here? What am I making? And this is what I do kind of for a living is I help people communicate their ideas. So, and what I've found is that the more you can drill down your idea. So again, the site started off, I was creating a dating site. So I was like, what am I creating? What am I making? And then, why am I making this? Why am I different than any other, at the time, dating site? How am I going to differentiate myself? Why are people going to use me over anybody else? And then I just started with literally a pen and a piece of paper. Once I had a very rough idea of what I wanted the site to do, what features I wanted, or most particularly, what features I didn't want. And that, so I started from like a subtractive, basis. Here's a generic site, and here's all of the generic features that are in a site. So I read a book called Getting Real. 37 Signals.
Yes, I have that on my list of books to read.
Get it. It's unbelievable. So there's two books called Getting Real and Rework, both by 37 Signals. And so what they say is, don't differentiate yourself by adding more features. Differentiate yourself by taking things away. Make things really simple. And that's my core philosophy, is do one thing really, really well. And the one thing that I knew I wanted to do was, I wanted to allow people to be who they are and ask for what they want, right? So that's where I started. How do I allow people to be who they are and ask for what they want? So once I had my sketches, I personally use a program called OmniGraffle. It's a Mac-only program. But, you can really use anything. You can use Photoshop and, or just use Paint. I mean, it doesn't matter. And then just start drawing boxes. This is my login screen, and this is what I want this to look like. And don't get too tied up in what it looks like. Just get tied up in how it works. So then I just used OmniGraffle. And I just started kind of dragging boxes around. Once I got to a very, very rough state, I made a PDF file and I made a listing on Elance and just said, make this for me.
On where? What website was that?
I used Elance.
Oh, Elance. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have like a sample of what the OmniGraffle rough sketch looked like so that we can see how it looked like when you created it?
Yeah. So let me share this with you. Let me share. I'm going to go back to sharing. Okay.
Okay, so now you're about to walk us through what exactly the draft you showed to the programmer, and then you're going to show us what it turned into. So go ahead. Right. Let's get started.
So the most important thing is I created two documents. I created the document that I gave my programmer, and then I gave the document that that I used internally, so when I was creating the design. Mm-hmm. So this is the document that I gave my programmer. So we go to the sign up form. This is what I gave. This is the PDF that I gave the programmer. As you can see, it's just email address, password again, date of birth, and then gender, right? Mm-hmm. So look at the actual page that I designed for. Let me go back to that. Shoot. So for another example, I'll go to this. So this is actually a really complex page. So what I gave the developer was this. As you can see, it's just got the relevant information. I wanted the profile name, the city and the state, how many messages were read or unread, the listings, listing 1, listing 2. But what I was developing internally looked like this. So you can see it's the exact same information. It's the name, the city and the state, the picture, and then the listings. So if you look at how these actually look how these actually look, I don't know why that's showing there. So I go from this to this. I can give this to my developer, but it's just going to confuse him because I don't want him to do all of the CSS. I don't want him to make it pretty. I just want him to make it work. So I gave him this, and that's really all that the programmer needed. So that's where I started. I started with these really bare bones sketches and went from there.
And this, what we're looking at right now, is actually a sketch of what the dashboard, the engine, when the user is logged in, what they see.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So, for example, we talked earlier about, being able to create a profile. Mm-hmm. So this is what I gave the programmer to create a profile. I knew I wanted it to have 3 pictures, a profile name, a zip code, and then some text, And then right here I gave some little notes to the programmer. The photo in slot 1 will be the default picture. Use this to determine the location of all listings under this profile, the zip code here. So that's to create a profile. Now what it actually looks like, well actually let's just go to the actual website. Yeah. So this is what it actually looks like on the live website. So as you can see, it looks totally different. But it's got the same fields. These are the 3 pictures. This is the name. The zip code is right here. And then the About Me text. So you can see how different it looks here. If I gave this to my developer, he would probably create all the CSS and stuff, and I didn't want him to do that. I just wanted him to make the core functionality. So it actually saved me a lot of money doing that.
Definitely, definitely. So you went through the process of actually using this OmniGraffle document, app or software online to actually create the rough sketch of what you want it to look like. Right. So the communication process between yourself and the developer, give us some more insight as to what challenges did you go through with that? I'm sure there definitely has to be some rough times dealing with it.
Yeah, and there really were. And so what I've found is a website. So there's a difference. I think there's a difference between a website and an application, right? So a website is, let's say that I make cakes, and I want to make a website where people can find, me as a cake maker. Right? That's pretty basic. I can describe that and say, I want pictures of my cakes and I want there to be a little profile thing and, I want there to, that. So that's a website. An application is, what Hang With Me is. And I found that creating an application is not about the screens that you give, so the screenshots that you give the developer. It's the minutia. It's how the website flows, and it's really hard to communicate, and you can be really specific and give them a bunch of screenshots, again, that I made in OmniGraffle, but it's that minutia of how it flows and how the error pages work. And, if I click on this, it goes there, but only if that happens. And if this and that, then it'll go over there. That minutia is really hard to communicate. And I don't know that I've actually quite figured that out yet. But what I do know is don't start with everything, right? Start with the minimum viable product. If you're creating an application, and the very first thing you want your user to do is to log in, then that's task 1. And this goes to what's called Scrum or the iterative process, or lean, kind of the lean startup kind of methodology, or agile methodology. Only create what you absolutely need right now. If I gave my developer a huge list of screenshots and said, make this, then I'm not going to be able, that's called the waterfall process, right? So here's 15, 20, 30 screenshots, make it. Okay, so they spend 2 months making it, and then you get it back and you're like, no, that's not what I wanted at all, right? So that's called the waterfall process, because it's just, here I am, and then this is what I get. And then you don't know what you got, what you wanted, until you're at the bottom of the waterfall, right? So that's called waterfall process. That's really, really bad. The way that I develop and the way that I've worked with my programmers is I look for people who use what's called agile methodology.
Yeah.
So if the first thing that I want is the user to log in, then task number 1 is a user can log in. And so my developer makes the login page. Okay, now what? Now the user can go to the dashboard. Okay, what does the dashboard look like? This. And so if you do these little teeny tiny iterations that take 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks to implement, you can constantly be, so it's the cycle, right? You create a story. I want the user to log in. And then the programmer makes it, and then you get feedback. And then you go back through that process. And it's like ironing a shirt. You're constantly going back and you're ironing, getting a little further down the shirt. So the best advice that I can give anybody making an application is, obviously be aware of the technology that you're using. Again, read the books. But Agile, if you know one thing, learn the Agile process, which is really simple. Start with the teeny tiny little thing. I want someone to create a listing. Okay, what's a listing look like? It's got this, this, and this. Okay, let's do that. Don't give your programmer 15 things. Give them one thing. And then when that one thing is right, and then iterate and iterate and iterate. And you're going to save a ton of money, a huge amount of money. So,
and my question too is, because you have this idea of what the overall structure of the app needs to do, and you're saying start with the agile process, which to me is, how quickly can you get things out? I think that's what that process is, right? How quickly can you get things out? Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were saying that you want to give them the most minimal thing to work on, how do you beat the temptation to not give them the entire list of what the app should do?
So you know what? Yeah. The best way to learn not to do that is to do it. I wasted a huge amount of money. I've gone through 4 programmers on this site. So I actually started developing this product in March. In March, I made my first listing on Elance. And I gave I made all my screenshots and I had them all and they were all awesome and they were perfect and I spent weeks and weeks and weeks making these screenshots and, putting them all into a PDF file and then writing up this really long listing on Elance. And I said, I want all of this and this is exactly what it's going to do and this is exactly what I want and I want it to be blue and that button's got to be this big and it was this hugely complicated document, right?
Yeah.
And then, I got bids, and it was like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, right? And so I was like, okay. So I sent off the screenshots, and I paid this guy $4,000, and then I went on vacation. I went and hiked the Appalachian Trail, right? And I was gone for a month. And so that was the waterfall process. I gave him this thing, and then when I came back from my vacation, I was expecting the thing to be done. Not only was it not done, but the stuff that he had delivered was totally wrong. It was wrong, and I realized I not only wasted about a month and a half, but I wasted $5,000.
Wow.
Like just gone, bye, And then I got wise, and that's when I was like, there's a better way. And that's when I started reading about Agile, and that's when I started learning about kind of these methodologies that you can use. And that's when I learned, okay, so. I don't know how to put it in in a term that a non-programmer would understand, but it's and this is not an insult to programmers, but in order for me to communicate, or in order for you to tell me something that I don't know, right, you have to talk to me like I know nothing, right? The more that you assume, the worse your product's going to be. Oh, he'll know what I mean. No, he won't.
Okay.
There's no way. He's not going to know. Only you know. So just start teeny, tiny things. So, and if you work, what I learned is if you find a developer that, look for developers that specialize in agile agile development, right? You'll know, and talk to them. So my litmus test for the second time around, my litmus test for the thing was I actually asked a question on my Elance profile. What did you learn from reading Getting Real? So I actually put that in there. I literally put a question there. What is your favorite part about Getting Real? And so if they ask what's Getting Real, or if they ask what 37 Signals was, or if they ask who's Jason Fried, you're out.
I get it. So you tested them
Yeah.
Against the person who actually came up, who made this whole agile development, popular, to see if they even know who they are, what company they are, if they've even read the book that preaches that whole philosophy.
If they haven't read the book, then everybody is like any programmer has read that book. Or if if they haven't read it, they at least know who Jason Fried is, or they know who and they can describe to you what they like about the agile process, and then they can help you guide you through it. Tell them, hey, I don't know tell me what I need to give you. Be specific. Don't assume. As soon as you assume, it's that classic statement. It's as soon as you assume, you're making an ass out of me and you. It's totally true. Be specific and just say, I don't know what I'm doing. This is what I want. Guide me through it. And a good programmer is going to do that, right? A good programmer is going to take the time, and they're going to walk you through the agile process, and they're going to use programs like Pivotal Tracker, and which is a tool that you can use to kind of create user stories. A user story is, I want a user to log in. I want a user to make a profile. I want a user to make a listing under a profile. Those are user stories, right? And you just start with these teeny tiny things. And then once that's done, then you move on to the next, and you move on to the next. And what you'll find is, instead of spending $5,000, right, in that waterfall process, I'm going to spend $400. Then I'm going to spend $700. And then I'm going to spend $1,200. And then I'm going to spend $300 on these user stories. I want a user to log in. Okay, that's pretty easy. I can use devise and blah, blah, blah. That's going to cost you $450. Okay, get that done. Now I want a user to create a listing. Okay, well, that's a little bit more complicated. That's going to cost you 3 days of work at $25 an hour, whatever it is. That's going to cost you $1,200. Okay, great. And then so at the end of the day, you're still spending that $5,000, but you're spending it smaller and smaller chunks.
And you're getting something done that you can actually verify.
And at the end of the day. And so, that's exactly it. So agile process is all about, when you're done with an iteration, that iteration can theoretically go live, right? So I could have went live with just a registration page, but it's complete code. It's done. It's finished code, which also means, so agile is not only a development method, but it's also a tool for your developer so that you can get rid of them, right? So if the developer, so if a developer, they say start with a very small project, right? Don't give that very first developer a huge project, because you haven't tested them yet. You have no idea if you like the person. You have no idea what you're getting. So start with, hey, create a login page for me, or oh, hey, do this, do that, and this little thing is going to take them a day or day and a half. And it's like that dating time. Like, you can test them out, they can test you out. You can get that communication down. Okay, I need to be more specific. This is how that person communicates. You can kind of get to know your developer. And then at the end of the day, once you create that thing, I'm going to move on to another developer because I just wasn't really happy. But you still have a finished product, right? When I spent that $5,000, all of that code that developer gave me was trash. I had to throw it away because there were so many bugs and it was so detailed. There's no way that I could give that to another programmer, because he would spend another $5,000 fixing all the errors the other guy.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Does that? I don't know if that's useful.
Yeah, definitely. So you're starting out with small chunks and getting them to make that small chunk work on its own as a system, and adding the next chunk of program, which you're calling basically user stories,
right?
Basically to work the programmer through the entire process of how a user, at the end of the day, when they come to the website to use it, the different things they would have to do, and they're building each chunk, and I guess adding them together until you get the entire app.
Exactly. It's just like ironing a shirt. You press and then you go back and you get a little bit further. But again, you don't have to be. It's not my obligation as the customer or the client, right? It's not my obligation to know this. It's my developer's obligation. A good developer, a good agile developer is going to walk you through this process, And I found, when I've actually found the right programmer, he spent an hour with me on Skype just saying, okay, here's how we're going to do this. Okay, so you want to develop this. All right, let's break it down. Now let's break it down further. And he actually spent that uptime getting to know me, getting to know my product, what I wanted to create, and he guided me through this, right? I didn't come to him. I wasn't the expert. The programmer was the expert, and I let him guide me through the process, right? And then I did my own homework, and I said, okay, now I need to learn. So I went on my own time, and I read about agile, and I read about user stories, so it's a give and take. You let your developer guide you through it, but also it's not an excuse to be ignorant. It's not an excuse to not know. Someone to throw you, oh, I'm confused by this. If you say that, you're going down the wrong path, because you're going to end up with something you don't want, or end up with something you don't need, or spending way too much money. So, it's on you to educate yourself, but it's also on your developer to guide you. A good developer, a good agile developer is going to guide you through it.
So let's also say now that the listeners listen to all this so far, so they probably don't even need that developer. I mean, like you had to show them this. Let's say they're starting out now, they're trying to find the right agile developer to work with them. What things do they have to look out for? I mean, based on your experience, what would you advise they have to look out for to get the right programmer to help them?
So, go to if you're on Elance or really any of the sites, you can go to the profiles of the developer, and you can see their portfolio. So you'll see what work they've done. Look at their portfolio. Look at their own website. Like, so I use a programmer now. So this is a great example. The programmer that I used on that waterfall process, I found him on Elance. And I was like, oh, hey, what's your website? He's like, oh, I don't have one. So my web developer doesn't have his own website. So it should have been warning number one, right? Yeah. Like, ding. You're like, oh, okay, all right. So look at their profile. Look at the work that they've done. Do you think that their work is cool? Do you like what they've done? It's pretty easy. I mean, it's just like hiring a photographer. Hey, show me photos that you've taken. Oh, hey, and if it's a big project, it's okay to ask for references. It's okay to say, hey, who have you worked for before? Who have you worked for? If you're a little bit more technical, you can look at their code, but assuming that the audience is non-technical, it's just like being a photographer, or you're hiring a photographer. Look at their work. Look at their past work. What have they done? Who have they worked for? Look at the feedback on the Elance thing. Look at their expertise on, have they taken the expertise tests, that kind of thing. So that's the basic thing. Look at the work that the programmer has done. The people that I use now, I went to their website to get this amazing website, and they've got this portfolio of all this work they've done. They don't have big clients, right? They haven't worked with Microsoft. That's not important. It's not who they work for. It's what they've created. Are they creating their own stuff? And that's tip number one, is just look for someone who is actively writing code. And do they have a blog? Are they blogging about their work? Are they on Twitter? There's really basic stuff that you can do that you would do with anything else. If you're finding a realtor, okay, well, it's the exact same thing as finding a developer. Look at who they work with. Look at, what work they've done. Look at, all of that stuff. So, yeah.
So definitely you want to verify, the kind of work that you want them to do for you.
Yeah.
If they've had prior experience doing this kind of work before, and just to see if it's the right fit. Because you don't want them to be learning on your own dime, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It is worth my time and my money to give them a trial project, even if it costs me $300, $400, right? Even if I'm, at the end of the day, I'm out that money, at least I'm not out $5,000, So get to know your developer and give them a really small task. How does the person communicate? How quickly do they answer my emails? How thoroughly do they, answer my emails? Are they guiding me through this process? I'm the client. I'm not the boss.
Yeah.
And that's really important. Is I felt like I had to walk in and I had to dictate and I had to know what who I was talking, and then I had to know what I was talking about. It's wrong. I'm not the expert here. Let the expert be the expert. I know what I want. And I just need to be able to, find someone who can get that out of me and guide me through it.
Definitely, definitely. And during this whole process now, we've gone to the point of you having an idea of what you want. You basically created a rough draft using OmniGraffle and handed it over to the developer, which made sure was the right type of developer, had the right type of way of programming, which is agile development that you wanted. And now you're giving it to them in the steps where it's chunk by chunk, little step by little step, and you're piecing it all the way till you got to the end. But I'm also trying to find out what did you use for management, because in order for you to get to the point where you have built the entire app, there is a management process involved. And you as the client and them as the expert who's helping you, how did you manage that process?
Well, so when I started off, I was using, when I did that very first one where I wasted all that money, I basically just sent him PDF files, and he uploaded it to, he had a test server, and he uploaded it, and he, so I would look at it, and, I would send him notes, and sometimes I would take screenshots, and it was kind of clunky. And then my second developer, he used an application called Pivotal Tracker, which I really, really liked.
And what is that?
Pivotal Tracker is a tool that allows you to track user stories. So you've basically got 3 buckets. You've got your icebox, and you've got your kind of in queue, and you've got your finished. And then, so I can write a user story. I want a user to log in, and then in the notes I'll say reference page 14 of the PDF or whatever. And then he'll say, okay, it's in progress. Okay, and then if it's, and he's, it's delivered, and I'll go to the website and I'll look at it and be like, nope, there's a bug. I'll click on the bug button. It's just a way to track. It's an agile tool. It's a tool that agile developers use to kind of guide these, to manage the user stories. The developers I'm using right now, who are based in Argentina, they have their own software. They have their own. I think it's incredibly similar to Pivotal Tracker, and there's a bunch of other project management tools, agile project management tools out there. They all basically do the same thing. There's a backlog. Don't work on this yet, but I'm just kind of making a note of it so you know what's coming. Work on this right now, and here's a priority, and here's what you've done, and there's a bug here, and there's a bug there. It's really, really easy software. So we use that to track, bugs and issues and features and all of that. And then they, and they'll push it. The server I use is a company called Heroku. Heroku.com. It's free to start, so you can create so I use a bunch of what's called SaaS, software as a service. So I have a ton of that. If someone's already made it, then don't recreate the wheel. So I need a mailing list, or I need and that's why Ruby on Rails is so good, because they have these things called gems. So the login feature. Every website's got a login feature. There's no reason to rewrite that code. There's code out there, so they can just use these gems. And again, the developer's going to know what these are, to kind of not, so you're not recreating the wheel every time. I use like Wufoo Forms. I use Heroku, which is a free server, and then I can dial it up as I'm getting more traffic. I kind of like literally turn a little dial, and my website, is more and more kind of power. So there's all this stuff that you can do for free, and then you can scale up as you need it.
Definitely. So I really appreciate you on the call, because you've taken the time to share with us some of your insight as to how how you've been able to build the app, and because there are a lot of people out there, myself included, trying to figure out, okay, how do we go ahead and build this app, have a team, the right programmers to come in and help us manage the entire process. And before you go, you told me something exciting, that you said that you have you launched how many weeks ago, and you've had success with users coming in. Can you share with us the news? I like that.
Yeah. So it was pretty shocking. So I'll say this. So I told you I was creating a dating site. Oh, my screen just blacked out. I was creating a dating site, and so I got the site done, and I went live with it. And my site was live for 1 day, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't like it. I don't want to get the site." And I told my friend. She looked over my shoulder, and she's like, "Oh, you should, it should be a site where you can find, people to go horseback riding with. So in 2 weeks, I kind of shut the site down, and I changed the name, and I changed the look and all that stuff, and I went live with that. And then so I had about 20 users. I went live about 3 weeks ago now. In that first week, I had about 20 users. Me, I have my 2 roommates, and 3 friends. They all kind of logged in, and so I had 20 users. And we're now 3 weeks later. We have just under 1,500 users.
Wow.
And I've been kind of amazed. The site kind of
You're breaking because I think the Skype signal is a little bit fuzzy. What was the last statement you said again?
Broke with me.
The Skype.
Starting where?
Yeah, you said 3 weeks ago. From there, I think the signal is back.
All right. So 3 weeks ago, we went live, and we had 20 users. And the users were all my friends and kind of my family. My brother was on there. And then we got a mention on a site called Reddit. Someone, I made a random comment in a random post on Reddit. And we went in one day. It was a Saturday. And we went from 20 users until the end of the day. We had just under 1,000 users in 24 hours.
Wow!
So we went 24 hours. So it was our third week. So our site had been live for 3 weeks. But we hadn't told anybody. Like, I didn't make a Facebook page. I didn't really have like any of the stuff. This site just kind of took off on its own, and it was pretty kind of awesome.
That's nice. I definitely will have to, after this interview, talk to you about some more stuff, but I really enjoyed you coming on the show. And so that anybody who wants to get in contact with you, how can they get a hold of you? And also, how can they get, involved with your community on Hang with me?
The easiest way to go is email me at hangme. You can find me on Twitter, Jason Tugman, Tugman, on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. And you just go to the website, hangwith.me, and you can hit me up through there, make a profile, make a listing, find some people to hang out with. And I'm open. So I've gotten so much amazing help from people like. You and I, our common denominator is Andrew Warner, and
yes,
so I listen to his podcasts and stuff, and I every now and then I'll email those people and just be like, hey, help, and so I've got some really amazing help, and it's just kind of it would be neat. I'm not there yet, but it would be neat to be able to kind of then help other people do what I've been able to do. It's kind of fun.
Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about and my audience about this. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Thanks so much.
So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really want to know what exactly you think. I mean, if I suck and if I'm not doing a good job, I want to know, because by your input and your comments, your suggestions, your feedback, that's how I'm going to improve on the entire package of what I'm sharing with you. I really want to improve so that you know that your time is well spent when you watch my videos. And if I do good on interviews, and if you like certain things I do, please let me know so I can even improve upon that as well. And I want to thank you really, because your time is well spent, and your time is important to me, and I want to make sure that I continuously put this information in front of you. So I want you to join my community, and in order to do that, you need to click on the link that says get the free ebook, enter in your name and email, and you will receive as a gift from me my free ebook titled The Entrepreneur's Guide to Running a Business in the Cloud. The reason I do that is because I want to share with you that information. You can check it out and make use of it in your business. In the same vein, I will be sending you email updates every time I have new blog posts, as well as if I have new stuff that is not even on the blog, I want to share with you. That way we can stay in contact. One more thing. Before you go, I want to also let you know that if you are really serious about finding, hiring, training, and even working with virtual assistants, if right now you want to get that started, why don't you sign up for my free webinar where I share everything about the entire process. And you can get to do that by clicking on the link on the very top of my blog where it says sign up for the free webinar. Again, thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.